Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are back with our first conversation with friends of 2025, and we have a great guest with us today. Joining us is Alana Kilmartin. Hello, Alana.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. Excited to be here.
Yes, this is an exciting one. As you know, we talk to all sorts of guests here at the Fundraising Nest Conversation with Friends, and Alana has just released a new book. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. I've got it right here with me, Unserious Careers. But I'm going to stop talking. And Alana, it's over to you. The first question is, who are you? What do you do? Tell us about yourself.
Yes, okay, where do I start? Okay, my name is Alana Kilmartin, and as you just said, Michelle, I released a book for school leavers towards the end of last year called Unserious Careers. So started this business, and when I was about to release the book, I had no idea what I was going to do with it and how to get it out there, and came up with this crazy idea to travel around Australia and speak at high schools all across the country. So that's the project for this year. I've got the goal of 250 schools in 1 year. I think I've got between maybe 80 and 90 confirmed so far, and I leave next week. So my main focus at the moment is getting this book into as many young hands as possible, and then also go and speak in front of hopefully thousands of young people this year.
It's brilliant, and those that follow the nest know that, as a side project, working with young people is another huge passion of mine. And I think, we're here to inspire the next generation of change makers, and whether or not that's in the charity sector or wherever, young people can change the world. And I think that's where the synergy is, and they don't have to think about how they're going to change the world when they're 15 or 16. And so, Alana, let's go back to the beginning of the book. Actually, do you want to give us just a brief overview of kind of what the book is about?
So the tagline is a fun guide to the first 5 years of your career. And what I wanted to do is create a resource for when a young person finishes school, and that inbuilt support network through school and sometimes even in family life, it drops away, certainly from the school aspect. And I wanted to create a resource that could help them navigate those first 5 years of their career when they may have made a decision based on their subject selection or what they had vague interests in when they were at school. But how many times do you hear of someone finishing school, they're 6 months out, they're 12 months out, they go, this isn't really what I want to do, and now I don't know what I want to do instead. And they don't have that same support structure to turn to. If their family aren't able to fill in the gaps there, a young person can feel incredibly lost. And so much of the book was informed, of course, of my own experiences. And I really created the book that I needed to read when I was 18 years old, to know that you don't have to have it all figured out by the time you're 21 years old. But those years after you leave school are so rich in opportunities, and you only need to take a little bit of risk, and it can take you so far and set some really amazing foundations for your career.
Brilliant. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I guess that was my next kind of point. You've written this, like most people, when they do something because of the experience that they've had. So take me back, kind of at what point did you went to school? Like, where was it that led to you going to school? Did you go to work? At what point you went, this is not what I want to do?
There were so many moments, and the opening story of the book, I'll share that because I was quite academic at school, and when I was around 11 years old, my dad asked me, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I said, I don't know, I want to be a nurse. And that was based on the fact that my grandma was a nurse. And he said, well, why would you be a nurse if you could be a doctor? And I thought, great, that makes total sense. Let's go and become a doctor now. And so much of my schooling was then influenced by that decision to go and wanting to study medicine. And when I was 17 years old, I got dumped, and I didn't think that was going to have such an impact on me, but it had quite a big impact on my life. And I started questioning things because I just thought, you don't get broken up with. Like, I met a guy, I thought it was a great fit, we'll just stay happily ever after, right? Very young and naive. And I think that
experience, the deepest.
It really is. And I think I had that experience, and it sounds so stupid. And I tell that story because it's often the most minor things that end up influencing our career decisions, or the most unrelated things. But I started to second guess, well, what do I really want to go and do? And part of that process was then taking a gap year, and I went and worked overseas. And it was these micro and these macro decisions that I made that ended up just taking me down a different career pathway. And it was really through asking this question of what else is out there. I grew up on a farm in a small regional area. We only saw so many things around us growing up, and I knew I had to question that to keep challenging myself. And I don't think if I hadn't have had all those side steps in my career and done all these different things that I would have been able to write the book that I have. But it's really been through trial and error. This feels really fun right now. In 6 months' time, I'm burnt out. And where the book really came to a head and the idea came from was when I was in my mid to late 20s and I completely burnt out in my career. I was in sales, had been incredibly successful, but was totally miserable. Didn't have time to spend with friends or family. My health had started deteriorating. And I thought, but I've got success. Isn't this what it's supposed to be about? And I was completely miserable and I would happily have thrown it all away to have not felt what I did in that moment. And it was really then that I had that come to Jesus moment, right? Where it was like something, I've gone wrong somewhere, I've gone right in other ways, and I feel like this information could be incredibly valuable for young people because we tend to oversimplify careers when a person is 16, 17, 18 years old. You're just going to choose a pathway, choose a job, it'll be fine. But the older you get, the more you realize how intertwined your career is with every other aspect of your life.
Absolutely. And it's something I talk about quite often is my reason why. And I think we had this conversation. I know you came to visit me out here, and yes, academia is important, but you really don't know who you are. I don't think until you're in your mid-20s. Actually, do you ever really know who you are? But I think what really is important is what it is that you're passionate about. What is it that intrigues you in life? What is it that you're curious about? Curiosity is so important. Curiosity, intrigue, intelligence of problem solving, that academia, all of these things, and we don't get that, I guess, from school.
No, we do not. I'd love to touch on that passion point because it's almost a bit of a rhetoric at the moment where it's bad advice to tell a young person to just follow your passions and to create a career based on your passions. And I can understand how that might not be the best advice or most helpful advice to a young person, but I really do believe that passion is this incredible beacon in your career. That I'll use the most basic example of this. I never thought I'd be able to snowboard, right? But when I moved to New Zealand, I learned how to snowboard, and it was the most amazing thing ever, and I became incredibly passionate about it. Now, if I was to say, well, I'm passionate about snowboarding, why don't I make this my career? The first thing you might think of is, okay, well, become a snowboard instructor, become a professional snowboarder. And we kind of look at it as you can't make a career out of that. Like your time, Alana, is long gone. But I think what we're not showing young people is, I might be passionate about snowboarding, but in the snowboarding industry, there is every other job title and every other industry under the sun represented within that. There's sales, there's marketing, there's HR, there's finance, there's everything.
Journalism, yeah.
Yeah, we're getting, say, a young person to look at accounting as an option or building as an option, but that's only one part of the career. What about the context of those jobs?
Yeah.
Because you can be an accountant in any part of any field you want because they're always going to need an accountant somewhere along the way. And I don't think we're helping young people to match those parts up because I can assure you can be a miserable accountant in a big company where you feel like you're just a very small cog in the wheel or you don't particularly care about what they're selling. But if all of a sudden you take that same job but you put it into the environment or the context of something that young person is passionate about in an industry they really care about, it changes the entire nature of work.
Absolutely. And I've fundraising, for example, it's not just shaking buckets, but I openly admit, and I can't, and I have dipped my toes in it. I can't raise money for buildings, for universities, and I'm not that passionate about animals. The thing I want to change in the world is children and young people. So I will always do my best job for an organization that I am passionate about, because when you're passionate, then everyone, that's kind of infectious. And so you create a kind of place where everyone can see how passionate you are, and it brings everyone along with you. And also I believe you will achieve the best things you're going to achieve if you love what you're doing. It's so cliche.
For sure. And there's certainly some people that they fit into that, almost that lane with careers where career it's something they make money with. Yeah. And they can go and do whatever number of hours they do and they leave, and that fuels the life outside of work, and that's great. But if I think for most people, we want to do something we care about. And in my experience, the longer you stay in a job or an industry that you don't particularly care about, the more bitter and resentful you become. And I think for young people in particular, if there is any time where they should go and pursue those passions and maybe explore them a little bit further in the context of their career, it's when they're leaving school. they've got so much time ahead of them, so much time to be working and maybe trying to earn more money if that's something that's really important to them. It's such a beautiful age where if they can have that amazing experience in those first 5 years when they leave school of doing something they care about for work, it's very cliche, but I just see the ripple effect of that throughout the world. And I think it's a much nicer place for us all to be living in.
There is, and there'll never be a point, I don't think, independent on it, that you really don't have any responsibilities. As you get older, they creep in, but when you don't. So some people might go, oh, are you, is this tour going to encourage a whole bunch of young people to take off on gap years and not go to university and ruin everything? I mean, is that, I can hear the parents. I don't agree with that, but it's not about that. It's about just making them kind of, I guess, follow a path that feels right for them.
Yeah, and the book, there's certain action chapters, so I do talk about gap years, and the actions that I describe aren't you have to do these things to be successful, be happy in your career. It's kind of just presenting ideas to a young person, and the hope is something within that will stick with them, and they might slightly change their plans after school, because a lot of what a young person and their family and their school is focused on is getting them into that first thing, right, when they leave school, be it that it's a tertiary pathway, vocational training, employment, whatever it may be. But I find there's very little guidance for the lifestyle, the life aspect of that, of, well, are you going to take a gap year? Do you want to travel? Do you want to go and move somewhere else in the country to get some experience living somewhere else? And it's not really about everyone just throwing caution to the wind and going and doing nothing productive. But we talk a lot about in the career space of transferable skills and how you need transferable skills. And even though you've never worked in one industry, if you've got transferable skills, you can always go and make it work. It's transferable skills are important, but I think what's more important for these young people is transferable experiences. So they need to go and be able to discover who they are, what they do and don't like doing, to make new friends that aren't just based on the area that they grew up within and goes to the same school as them. They need an opportunity to go and mature. And I give the most basic example. Let's take gap years. A strong criticism of gap years can be, well, if they don't go, they'll never go. They need to go straight from school straight into studying. But I mean, do they not deserve a break for a start? If you compare two graduates from university, both of them have done the exact same 3-year bachelor degree. One of them came straight out of school and went and did that degree versus another one who took a gap year and worked for a year, then went and did the degree. Who are you going to hire if you're a business? Are you going to hire the student who has more life experience, more work experience, and has that little bit of extra maturity? Or are you going to go for that person that just finished their degree sooner because they went straight out of school? And I think in terms of a competitive workforce and everything that's changing, ever evolving in the workforce, I think these types of experiences and life experiences are going to become infinitely more important and valuable for a young person, particularly in the age of, we talk about AI a lot and everything that's going to change. I can't see how experiences like this are going to become any less valuable.
Not at all. And, if there was, family trip, there's so, you don't just have to go backpacking, but there's so many meaningful things you can do. There's the volunteer services aboard, and there's so many, I guess, experiences that if there was trepidation, letting them go, that actually will be really meaningful. It's so exciting what you're doing. And tell me, how many schools are you going to?
Hopefully 250 this year. I haven't got that many booked yet. We're starting term 1 in New South Wales, and I think I've got about maybe 70 schools now booked and a few more, capacity for maybe 5 more. And my real focus is getting to regional and remote areas.
Yeah.
I know growing up on a regional area, we just didn't have the same access to resources, to external speakers. And the talk is really just designed to help a young person be excited by careers, for it not just to be I don't know what I want to do when I'm older, to really get excited by the possibilities and to think about what's that going to look like, my life beyond school, and how can I start working towards a better version of that. And it's amazing, I think, the difference between being, in a virtual setting like this for a young person in particular, as opposed to face-to-face with them. My experience, especially this generation now, has been they're incredible. And yes, their attention spans might be different to what it was when I was at school, but if you give them an engaging talk, something they can relate to, something a bit more tangible, they really love it. And that's my hope, is to bring that excitement and get them to emotionally invest in their careers.
I can't agree anymore from my own experience too. They just need that ignition, that reality, that authentic person telling them, I've done, it's somebody that's come in a privileged position. They're not teachers, they're not parents, and what a brilliant opportunity to inspire them with reality. Like it's, you're not teaching them some kind of, strategy here. This is actually an experience that you have gone through. Just kind of look at the fundraising sector. It's a huge, I've interviewed and spoken to hundreds of fundraisers from all over the world, some who are, 40 years in their career, some new ones. And I don't know any of them that came into this profession knowing as a young person, I'm going to be a fundraiser. Every single person says, well, I kind of just fell into it. And that is because there is no professional pathways to our sector. And, not just fundraising, but in the charity space, from marketing to comms to digital to CEO, there's no young person. I would love you to come back to me and say, Michelle, you'll never guess what. Just randomly, a young person said to me, I want to be the CEO of a charity, because I would be gobsmacked. And so it's that, that there's probably, for young people, I bet there's a list of about 20 careers. And that's where, if breaking down that, you can only be what you can see. And particularly for the rural areas, I think if they haven't, as you said yourself, been exposed to the possibilities, that's our duty to teach them about them.
We spoke about this last week when we were chatting in person about the idea of ambition, and how in this country in particular, we can sometimes stifle ambition through things like tall poppy syndrome. But there are young people sitting there that know they want to go and do great things in the world, that they have that fuel they want to burn to create change in the world, or just to do something really epic. And I see it as if I can come in and help them realize that that's a great thing, and that they should harness that and really go and use that in their career, even though they might feel like sitting there in that room, in that school, that they don't feel like they have the tools or resources to do it, that you've just got to take the first step, and you've got to go and meet great people, and you will find your way. It's that 1% shift for that young person at that age, that all of a sudden in 10, 20 years time, they're telling their story and they go, oh, well, I always knew I wanted to do something, but I wasn't sure in what context I wanted to do it in. That that light bulb moment went off of, I want to go and do something really cool. And funny that you were saying about the fundraisers. Even probably before we met, I didn't necessarily understand that it was a profession or a niche in and of itself. Of course I knew about charity work, but I was like, fundraising is just like sales, but for good reasons.
Yeah. Well, in a sense, yes. But yes, it is. It's storytelling. You've got to connect people to the cause. It's kind of facilitating the change that generous people want to see in the world, and it's your job to make that happen. So, especially on that big level, the big gifts, the bequests, but then there's the events. There's so much different parts to it. And yes, it's a whole world. So absolutely. I think you're going to change the world. I'm so excited about what you're doing. Parents of young people on serious careers, we're going to keep in touch with Alana. We're just about coming to the end of our time. As always, that went super quick. I'm just thank you for what you're doing. I think this will change lives ahead. And I guess, are you enjoying this? Is this?
It's very surreal and pinch me moments. Like for years, I thought, how cool would it be to be able to not necessarily have a platform, but to be able to connect with young people and to teach them about their careers and inspire them. And it's really only been this whirlwind journey in the last 3 or 4 months where it's really quickly picked up pace. And I love it. Like, I love all the different aspects. Like, I'm quite stressed at the moment and overwhelmed because of all the you don't realize all the little things you need to get organized for a trip like this. But I know once I hit the road next week and I'm in front of these young people, it's going to make it all worth it. And it's that feeling in my gut of, we just don't know where this year might lead to.
No. So anyone who's listening, we know we've got many parents out there, we've got many businesses, our partners, everyone. Do get in touch with Alana if you want more information. We will share the details of the website and the book. But for now, we're going to find out a little bit more about Alana as a person. As always, we're going to finish with this or that. Alana, are you ready? Quick fire, 10. Right, let's go. Mountains or beaches? Introvert or extrovert?
Introvert.
Movies or books?
Movies.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Morning bird or night owl?
A combination.
Camping or hotels?
Hotels.
Phone calls or text messages?
Phone calls.
Pizza or curry?
Pizza.
And finally, Marmite or honey? Well, Vegemite.
On toast? Like, is this what
Yes.
okay, obviously. Vegemite.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alana. We wish you all the best on your tour and I hope it goes really well. And I'd love to have you back later in the year and you can tell us all about it. That would be wonderful. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Michelle.
Thank you, everyone. That's our first conversation with friends over for the first one. And many more to come this year. We will see you next time on Conversation with Friends. Goodbye for now.